Spencer Penrose. He was the guy that had a gold mine at Cripple Creek, built the Broadmoor, came out and bought Garden City Company, 30,000 acres, and built a sugar beet plant. And this was in like 1906. And that was some of the first Hispanics that came up. They'd come up to hoe beets and top beets because everything was done by horse and wagon by hand. And it was functioned up until 58, I think, about then. And then it shut down. But he was way ahead of his time.
The sugar beet factory was the main source of income in Garden City. And many of the farmers would come to town in the wintertime after they got their wheat planted and go to work at the sugar beet factory. They were processing sugar beets and making it into Garden City sugar. That's what it said on a sack of sugar, was Garden City sugar. And there were lots and lots of people. There were kids my age that, 5 years older than me, that got to work at the sugar beet factory when they were in their late teens.
I wanted to also ask you about technology a little bit. So when you were out on the farm, did you have radio, TV, newspapers? Did you have a washing machine? Did you have
We had a washing machine. I grew up with a washing machine with a little gas motor to run it, and didn't have electricity.
You didn't? So you had kerosene lamps?
Not
and
when I
things?
first. We had carbide.
Okay.
So about the same thing. And we had the outdoor potty and windmill. We didn't have running water in the house. So it was pretty basic. And then it was probably 10 years old, maybe we got water in the house. And that's when rural electric came in, so we had electricity. So, everything started changing. I don't think we had TV till I was in high school.
It's so hard for kids today to imagine what it's like to grow up without screens.
Well, they don't have any imagination. When I was growing up and you was out there by yourself, you had to have imagination just to figure out how to get in trouble. It was a full-time job.
Yeah. What were some of the other stories of the businesses that were around you, around the tinker shop?
There was a dance hall above the tavern. It was a large area that people would come, in fact, to dance. A lot of people found their mate in that dance hall. The area was quite active, and of course downtown area was the only place that you could come and buy something. So even on the off streets, there was plenty of activity. There was 2 grocery stores in that block, and there were a place to get your piano tuned, and they sold pianos and instruments. There was a car dealership, a laundry, and there were 2 places that people brought their cream to get their cream processed and sold. They sold the cream and chickens out of one of the places, and the other one just was a creamery. And there were 2 dairies in that same block that other larger people came and dropped off their milk.
What were the charges in the tinker shop, for example, to get work done? Do you remember any of the pricing there?
Making keys for 15 cents. And I have a book that shows how much he got from Tom, Dick, and Harry over a period of about 6 or 7 years, and almost every entry was 10 cents or 15 cents. Occasionally there was a 25-cent entry, and sometimes, for whatever reason, there might even have been a dollar. That whatever he had done, it must have taken a tremendous amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a low income thing during the 30s.
Did the war change that?
When the Air Force Base came to Garden City after the early 40s, 42, 43, and established the Air Force Base out here, then the government money started rolling into the community, and everybody smiled a lot better because they went through every phase of the community, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And the daddy would go to the Air Force Base out at 12 miles east of town and work out there for hours at a time doing lock work, because he was in fact a locksmith, and the government pay for doing lock work was somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 times as much as he'd been getting in town prior to that.
So business got much better.
That's why he was able to buy a TV set in 1953 and put up a 62-foot tower. That 62-foot tower was made at Palmer Manufacturing, and O.G. Palmer made the first 60-foot towers. We had to bounce TV in here from Great Bend, 120 miles northeast, or from Oklahoma City, which is 300 miles away. But we could bounce the signal. Once in a while, we watched the World Series in '53, and the Van Johnson baseball team came over to our house to watch the World Series in black and white.
What did you do for fun as a teenager?
We drug Main Street. When we were dating, and all the kids would meet down on Main Street, and they'd drive down Main Street, down Fulton Street, flip around at the Creamy, come back down Main Street, go down to the square, turn around at the square. But the square was a meeting place where people would park their cars, and everybody would stand around and talk, look at cars, whatever. And then we'd go to the movie theater downtown or to the drive-in theater.
I think you told me you used to drag Main Street for fun.
That was a big thing. Just go up and down Main Street.
Did you have any gathering places or watering holes or?
Back then, you had the old drive-ins. You remember those? That might have been before your time, where you'd have like a place where you had all the, you'd go get sodas.
Mm-hmm.
But back then you had to be 18 to buy beer, and that was 3.2 beer. You couldn't 6% beer. You had to be 21, but you could buy 3.2 beer at 18.
I think you also said you raced on the old airstrip.
Yeah, they had. There's a feed yard on it now, but there was an old airstrip out about 4 miles east of town, and it was a little over a quarter mile long. And so we spent a lot of Sunday afternoons out there drag racing, trying to outrun each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, you'd go home and talk Dad out of some money so you could buy some more parts to make it run faster.
Can you tell me about Beef Empire Days and the history of it?
Yeah, it's probably a week or 10 days long. They have a parade. They judge cattle. Feed yards will bring what they say their best steer in, and a judge will come in and judge the steers. Then he'll grade them. And then to back up the grade, they'll take them out to the packing house and slaughter them and have them. So you got to look at the ribeyes and then get a real accurate grade on the steer.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to have when we were in the balloon club, we'd have balloons come in from Albuquerque and stuff, and had a lot of fun.
Hot air balloons. You're a pilot, I hear.
Yeah.
When did the fiesta start? What was the history of it? Do you have any idea?
Way back, God, I don't know what year, but it was my wife's uncle that started it.
Would everybody come, the whole of Garden City, or
Oh.
was it mostly just the Mexican?
Well, we had
community.
there was a lot of people came over because we had a good concession stand, and boy, I
Okay.
tell you what, the people were eating good.
Uh-huh. Good Mexican food.
Oh God, yeah.
What else was there?
They had a program, and I was in it too. We all had to show the we were dancing the Mexican way.
Nice. Is it still happening every year?
Well, yeah, once a year now. It's on a Saturday, and they have a parade. As Angelica Chapel is doing it now, and she did a good job. But it's only one day. It's on a Saturday. They have the big fiesta, and she does a real good job on the fiesta.
When did the clutter murders happen? Because you mentioned that one of the boys was in your class. right?
Yeah, well, he was in my Sunday school class.
Okay.
Kenyon Clutter. Yeah, it was a Methodist church, and he was in the same age as I was. That morning, he didn't show up for Sunday school, and he was always there. We thought that was a little strange. Then they told us after Sunday school was out that the Clutters had all been killed that morning.
How did that impact the community?
Oh, it made a huge difference in the community. Just in our business, people, didn't lock their homes at night. We never did. And after that, we started selling deadbolts because everybody wanted to lock their front
Of course.
doors. And we didn't know whether this person was still in the community or, who it was. And it made a big difference the way people lock their homes.
Must have been a relief when they caught them.
Yes, very much so. And then they made the movie of In Cold Blood.
My next brother, Rudy, was a master photographer. People in this area know him very well. If you got married, you graduated, he was the one who took your picture.
Did you tell me that he photographed the clutter murders?
When the Clutter murders occurred in Garden City, and Holcomb, he was called in by the police to photograph the crime scene. And he did. I was working at the Wichita Eagle at the time. And my husband, to be, was the editor of the Sunday section. So when that happened, I tried to get an interview with Truman Capote, who wrote the book In Cold Blood. And I missed him for 4 or 5 years. And then finally, when he finished the book, I was able to catch up with him. And I interviewed him in my brother's studio. And he took the pictures for that story. But it was a fascinating event. And he actually liked the story. And I thought that was really, he told my brother that, And he said, if she'd like to get a job in the Times-Picayune in Louisiana, he said, I'd be glad to put in a good word for it because he liked what I'd done. And I said, no thanks. I'm not a Southern girl.
Probably the one fire that affected the community the most was ConAg, which was a beef packing plant here in Garden City. That fire happened in 2000, and it was Christmas night, and there was very few people on duty. They had a fire that was in the rendering plant, and it was very cold that night. And then ConAg had their own water system out there, their own hydrants, and the hydrants were frozen up, so we had no water. And we had to haul all the water in to fight the fire. So that fire went on for about a week. And once that was extinguished and everything was done, of course, the plant was destroyed. And all the beef packing people that worked there, which was 2,400 people, lost their jobs. Those people left Garden City, and it wasn't just losing 2,400 people. Those people had families. So when they left Garden City, there was a lot of people left Garden to go look for other work.
On 9/11, I was teaching middle school. And one of the people I'm going to go visit tomorrow, he came over to my room. He said, Mr. Clark, turn on your TV. And we flat watched it.
Watched it in real time
We watched it in real time. And then
with your students.
with my students, and they were terrified, obviously. And then they forced 3 planes down in Garden City when they grounded all planes, because Garden City has a big old airport. 2 of them were just medium-sized planes and probably didn't have terrorists, but the big one was an Air Canada, and it had taken off from Logan, 1 gate down, 5 minutes from when the one went that tried to do the thing in Pennsylvania.
That tried to hit the Pentagon? Is it?
Yeah. And when I'm done here, I'm going to visit the wife, and he may be over there. I think he's retired too. But I'm going to visit Kim Steele, and her husband was on duty to guard these planes, and he heard this from the pilot of the big Air Canada plane. All right, this came straight from somebody who heard the pilot say it. He said, first time, the pilot said, proceeding to Denver. And air traffic control came on and said, maybe you didn't understand me, but I said land in Garden City, Kansas. And he said, proceeding to Denver, the pilot did. Then air traffic control said, we have the jets up. It's a national emergency. If you don't land in Garden City, Kansas, we're going to blow that plane to smithereens. And the guy said, landing in Garden City, Kansas, and did it. And because that could have happened right over our town.
Wow.
And then they hauled them all to the high school, bused them, and they provided them with a meal, and they talked to them and tried to set up lodging for them, and told them what their options were.
2001, September 11th.
So we had a new fire truck we were taking delivery on that day, and Mike McClure, one of my firefighters, came out and said, Chief, there's been a plane hit the World Trade Center. And I said, okay, Mike. I said, we'll come in and take a look at it in a little bit, thinking that it was a small airplane that had crashed into the World Trade Center. And it wasn't too long, then he came out and said, Chief, there's been a second plane hit the other tower. I went into the fire station, had the TV on. We were watching TV and watching what was going on in New York City. And I made the comment, I said, I'm sure glad we're not there today. And about that time, the tone went off, and dispatched us to the regional airport. And we were told that we had large airplanes coming in. We had 4 of them that landed in Garden City. But in addition to that, every small plane that was in the air also landed at the same time. Our job, as firefighters, we wanted to get the people off the airplanes. But because of the size of airport we had no equipment really to deplane the people. So we had the ladder truck. We pulled the ladder truck, put the ladder out, and we started unloading passengers. And we got a few of them unloaded, and then law enforcement showed up and they said, stop. They wanted to interview everyone that came off those planes. So every one of them had to be interviewed to see who they were and where they were going.
And where were most of these people flying to or from?
All over the country.
All over the country. So, and they landed in Garden City.
They landed in Garden
Never
City.
heard of it before, probably.
Right. A lot of people were, where were we at?
Well, we went to the movies when I was growing up, and generally my father loved movies, so he would go with us. But if we went to the movies, we had to sit up in the balcony.
Was this at the State
State.
Theater?
And the Ritz, which was down south on me. And that was kind of interesting because if my friends wanted me to go to the movies with them, they would sneak me in to the first floor. And if there was an usher coming by, they'd make me duck. And so, but I mean, they understood, everybody understood what the protocol was, you know. All the minorities sat upstairs. And there were a few black families in the city at that time. So everybody sat upstairs, and everybody else who was Anglo sat downstairs.
So when you grew up, how did you feel about being Mexican American?
It was kind of scary at times because we had to watch where we were going because it was like a test. There was a little bit of prejudice, you know. So we knew where to go and we knew where not to go. But at times I grew up with some people from the Catholic school. I had friends there, and their good percent were all Caucasian, to where really I didn't have that much problem. I grew up with people that were pretty well known in Garden City, but I had no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't want to mention no name, but there was a place here to where we couldn't go in and have ice cream, or it was in town, and there was some hamburger place too, stand that to where we were pretty well treated pretty bad, to where we could still order, but just how they treated us, how we were served.
Mm-hmm.
So at a certain time, my dad said, "That's it. We're not going there no more."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I was in the third grade, actually, they would pass out cards for you to sign up for swimming lessons in the summertime. And we took the cards. My brother was in the first grade at that point, and I was in the third grade. So we took the forms home. And my dad was very interested in human behavior too. And he said to my mother, "Yeah, we should sign that for them to learn how to swim." And my mother was very hesitant. I think she knew or anticipated what was going to happen. But my father always thought we should experience these things. You know, we should, if it was a test, it had to be a test that we had to go through, right? So anyway, we showed up with our bathing suits and our towels in Fit-Up Park.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the organizing of the teachers and potential swimmers. And the woman who was calling out the names and assigning teachers didn't call our names. And so we're standing there. Now I'm in the third grade. He's in the first grade, right? And I said to her, after everybody else was assigned, "Excuse me, but you didn't call our names." And she said, "I had no intention of calling your name." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because you're Mexican." I'm in the third grade, okay? And I said, "So?" And she said, "You're not allowed to swim in the pool." I said, "Oh, okay, thank you." So I said to my brother, "Let's go. We can't go in to swim." He goes, "Why?" And I had to explain to him on the way home why this was happening. When we got home, my mother was at the door waiting for us, knowing what would happen. And so that riled up a bunch of people. I had a sister my sister Connie, I think she played cards with some of the city fathers. So she started calling them up saying, "What are you doing? Why are you letting this happen? This is unfair. These children should learn to swim." So some of the people in the Mexican American community got upset too and started calling the city fathers and stuff like that. Well, by the end of the summer, we did learn to swim. I think the reason that we were able to get through it without a lot of scars was that we could always go home and talk about our experiences. The dinner table was our discussion table, really. And we would talk things over that happened to us in the daytime. And my father would always give us an explanation of why that might have happened. But see, he too was a student of human behavior. And so he understood a lot of this. And I remember one of the things that he said to us early on was, a lot of what's happening to you has to do with economics. You know, and people don't want to have to compete with anybody because they think they have certain rights to certain jobs and what have you. So you have to be better, well educated, and you have to, pursue whatever you want to pursue, but keep that in mind that, there are always people who will probably try to hold you back, but you're just going to have to work through that.
What language did you speak at home?
I was learning a little bit of Spanish until I went to school. And at the time, the nuns told my parents no more English.
Or no more Spanish?
Yeah, I mean, Spanish, I meant. And ever since then, I've been talking English, then I forgot how to speak Spanish. And I still talk very, very little Spanish. So my wife is my interpreter.
We ended up bringing in a lot more sales tax, basically, than a town of 15,000 could. I mean, in other words, everybody that came to town that shopped paid our local sales tax.
Which was what?
Well, it was like now it's 8.95%, and the city gets 1% of that. So they could look at that and see that we were pulling people from outside of our trade area.
Do you want to share a particular story or an example?
Probably the biggest thing is when we got Menards, Home Depot, all that strip center, Dick's Sporting Goods, Hobby Lobby, all those stores pull people from outside of our trade area. I mean, we're bringing people in from the Panhandle of Oklahoma, Panhandle of Texas, clear into the eastern part of Colorado. Will come here.
And why do you think it happened here more than like Dodge City or Liberal? Was that?
We were more aggressive.
Okay.
And that's one reason I got on the city commission, is because I wanted to see Garden City grow. And I've always said that I'd like to see Garden City be at least 40,000. That was a good size city for us.
Tell me some of the stories, some of the other success stories.
One of the things probably the biggest controversy was closing the pool, the largest concrete pool. That something that at one time was a big pull to Garden City because it happened to be the largest concrete municipally owned free swimming pool. As time went on, I mean, people didn't really use it a lot. So that's when we started looking into maybe doing something else with that site. And, we did our homework before we decided to spend the money to redo it and make it into more of a water park, which most of the people that were opposed to that were people that had lived in Garden City and moved away, and they didn't want us to get rid of that monument. So we thought this was a better solution to make it into a water park, and it's turned out to be good. We have a lot more usage now than we did before.
We chose Garden City as to be the area where we were going to do this Ministry of Presence because we had a platform here of our sisters. Way back in 1931, Dominican sisters followed the request of two doctors that had started a small hospital to begin a hospital here. In 1994, there were more people below poverty line here, number-wise, than in Wichita, although it was 10 times bigger. And so we decided we would come here because we would have the awareness of people that who we are and what we're about, and then we would have plenty of people that would need it. Back in the 1970s, late 1970s, a beef packing plant, approached the powers that be wanting to start a plant out here. And then they said, if we say yes, it's bringing those people in because you don't have to have any kind of education to do processing of beef. They're going to be people that are poor, people that have no education or very small amount of education. They're going to have all kinds of needs. And some minister that was in the group is supposed to have said, okay, if we say yes, are we going to call those people a blessing or a curse? And it went deadly quiet at that point. And then they began the discussion of how to make it a blessing. So they started what's called the Community Services Council. And it meets once a month, and it has done so ever since 1979 until this day. And after I get through with this, I'm going to the monthly meeting of it. And all of the social service agencies are invited to be there. And we talk about anything new that we are experiencing or doing, and reach out to each other for that service for a certain family or whatever.
How long did it take from the south of Vietnam to Thailand? On the
I think because the boat after the first day, the engine gone. It's not running anymore. So we use a drip on the tire, and a 3 day, I guess. It's a 3 days. Yeah.
That must have been scary.
Oh yeah. It's
With
scary.
a wife and a baby.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people die on sea because it's too small boat, and if you have a typhoon wave in there, it sink, and some pirate kill them and sink them. Yeah.
How did you get to Garden City, and why Garden City?
Honestly, we're talking about a funny story. I don't know what the Garden City look like. And I have one friend. He in a refugee camp with me, and his uncle sponsored him go to Garden Grove, California. And he told me, I'm going to Garden Grove. So I told him to have a paper told me if I go to Garden City. He said, that's good. Garden Grove and Garden City is not far each other. The garden anywhere. So okay, we'll go. So I accept going to Garden City.
And they sent the applications or the sponsorship papers to the refugee camp.
Yes. I think the St. Mary Church in here accept us to come and they will sponsor us.
Did you know anything about Garden City before you came here?
No.
Did you know where it was?
I even didn't read the Kansas because of KS. And
Oh,
that's why I thought the Garden Grove and the Garden City are not each other. So the Levita say, well, this guy, he made that your candidate.
Yeah.
So she asked me, do you want to go plumbing? I don't know what a plumbing means. So I asked her,
You didn't have,
what's a plumbing doing? And here, what she say? Plumbing company, you have all kinds of plumber to do the plumb. That's what she answered me. I remember.
plumbing to do.
Plumbing company have a plumber, all of them plumb. So I have no clue what you're doing. And the first day I go to work, they tell me to cut your iron rod the whole day because you build a big school here. You need a lot of hard thread rod to cut the handy pipe. And I come back and my wife asked me, what the plumber doing? I said, cut the rod. got the iron rod. We don't know.
Well, you didn't have plumbing, did you, in the village in Vietnam?
No,
No.
we use the water and the river.
Right.
That's how we use. No, I
But you learned and you went through the whole training program.
yeah.
And what are the relationships like with the other immigrant communities? Because Garden City has a lot of Mexican Americans and a lot of Africans now, and people from all over the world who've come here to work. Do
I
you think
don't.
there's much mixing?
I don't think we have any legally or any formal relationship, but we only have a friend because it's job related. Most of the people Vietnamese or other group work in Tyson.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter Mexican or Indian or whoever. You work on a line together and you know each other. Then from there, in the weekend, you go to fishing together or you have a party together. You just look like friends.
So you think it's a pretty welcoming
I think so.
immigrant community?
Yeah.
Did the content of your teaching change with the demographic changes? Did you teach other kinds of history?
Well, here's what I did was, this, I hope it didn't get me in trouble. But I did some pretty crazy things in my day. Toward the end, I'd say, okay, there's 4 corners in this room. Okay. If you yourself were the immigrant, that corner. If it was your parents, that corner. If it was your grandparents, that corner. And you who go back further than that, it's this corner. Guess which corner almost had nobody? Like when I came in, the town had Hispanic people, but that was about it. And it's gone to now Garden City High. When I left, I think they had people from 50 different countries going to school there. They were born in 50 different countries. And they try really hard to adapt to all of this. And they work really hard trying to help these people. And I admire that.
I would encourage people to, learn about the different cultures. Like I had a friend who was Somali, and he worked for he was a chemical engineer by training, but he became a social worker when he came to the U.S. So he worked for the social services here, and he would give us training, and then we'd bring in other people from other cultures that would say, "Hey, this is what we're about," and I would sometimes go in, and we have what we call roll call, and officers come in on a daily basis. Sometimes I would go in and give them tips on, why does an Hispanic driver run a red light at 3:00 in the morning? Because nobody's coming, it's just logical to do that, They can see that nobody's coming. Why did you write them a ticket at 3:00 in the morning when they were the only other car on the street?
Besides you.
And I said, they look at driving in kind of a pragmatic way. If nobody's coming, why do they have to sit there for 3 minutes while the light is red? That's silly. And they go, you're right.
And if the chief is saying it, it must be okay.
Yeah.
What would you say the lessons are that you'd like to share with future government, future officers and chiefs of police? What do you think you'd like to pass on as, the way that you found to be an effective leader of a?
Well, I think you have to be fair. I'll give you an example. We have 2 sons, my wife and I. They both got arrested at one point in their careers as teenagers, you know. And
The sons of the chief of police
and they
arrested.
were treated exactly like we would treat anyone else. And the officers who are still there that, you know, did that, they remember that. Because of the youngest one, he got arrested one night, and I get a call from the sergeant, and he says, "Chief," he says, "we've arrested your son. What do you want us to do?" And I said, "Well, what would you normally do?" And he said, "Well, we would cite him, and we would call the parents, and the parents would come get him." And I said, "When you're done filling out the citation, call me and I'll come get him." You know, and that went a long way.
The uniqueness is the whole cultural variety and the celebration of the cultures. The Mexican fiesta we just had, and the Independence Day another time, and so forth. So the cultural norms, the cultural foods, you can get about one of anything. There's an East African restaurant now, so that makes it unique. You can say hi to anybody, and they respond unless there's somebody that's having problems. The effort to make everything welcoming to whomever. And so I think children growing up here, color, language, all that, it's just a part of life. And so I think children in this area, people in this area, are more prepared for a good interaction with the humanity, no matter what.
They have a better understanding of the shared humanity.
Because it's
Just-
all they ever see.
Yeah.
And at our parents as teachers office is in the middle of the 3 to 5 year old school, preschool. And you walk down the hallway, you see every color that can be, and the hijabs on some of the little girls and other native type dressing. It's just part of life. They don't think anything of it.
If you look at the symbol of Garden City, it shows kind of a yucca cactus, but it's many different colors, and that represents all the people who are here. You know, from Lord knows where, including the Burmese, who I haven't even talked about. But, you know, they were another element.
Tell me a little bit about the Burmese.
They were pretty lost in this culture.
They were refugees from war.
Burma, Myanmar, I think is the new word for it. And there were a bunch of people coming in from Central African Republic too. And the worst thing they had trouble all adapting to was the winters here. You know, you'd see them running around on the ice and snow in these tropical outfits, but that began to change pretty quick, and they began to adapt. Garden City Schools tried to keep their bases all covered, taking care of these kids. Now, you know, there's some people that think those funds are a waste of money. It should just be eliminated.
What do you think?
No, because most of the people who are coming now really want to adapt to this culture and not just use it. They truly do.